There is a specific psychological event most men have never learned to name. And until they can name it, they have no defense against it. It is not damage. It is not suffering. It is not pain. It is breaking. And most men by the middle of their lives have already broken silently at a moment they cannot remember in a place they cannot locate. And they now live inside the wreckage without knowing it is wreckage. The distinction between damage and breaking is one of the oldest and most precise concepts in the Western philosophical tradition. Damage is what the world does to you. Breaking is what happens when the damage reaches the part of you that decides who you are and finds no resistance there. Damage bruises the surface. Breaking collapses the interior. A man can be catastrophically damaged and remain unbroken. His body can be injured. His money can be taken. His reputation can be destroyed. He can be imprisoned, exiled, betrayed. None of these on their own break him. Breaking is not caused by the event. It is caused by where the man was standing when the event arrived. And this brings us to the central paradox of the entire tradition. The paradox that almost every man in the modern world misunderstands, and the paradox that decides more than anything else whether he will ever be unbreakable. The paradox is this. The more you defend, the more you can be hurt. The man who has built high walls around a large territory has given the world a large territory to strike. Every one of his possessions is a nerve. Every one of his attachments is a handle by which the world can seize him. He believes he is protected because he has built armor. What he does not see is that every piece of armor, every wall, every defended thing is another location at which he is vulnerable. The larger the fortress, the more of him is exposed. The unbreakable man is not the one who has built the biggest fortress. He is the man who has moved out of it entirely. The unbreakable man is not defended. He is released. He has deliberately over years let go of clinging to the things the world had already been going to take from him anyway. His reputation, his comforts, his identity as a man of status, his need for the world's approval, his need for things to go his way, and located himself in the one place the world cannot reach. That location is not spiritual. It is technical. The tradition has a name for it. It is called the Interior Citadel. The phrase belongs most famously to Marcus Aurelius, but the concept is older. It appears in Epictetus, in the Stoics before him, in Boethius after him, in every serious philosophy of self-mastery for 2,000 years. The interior citadel is the seat of your response, not the events of your life. The events are not yours. Your response is yours, and it is the only thing that is. This is why the tradition insists repeatedly across every century that the unbreakable man is not a man with more strength than other men. He is a man with less attachment, not because he does not care about his life, because he has understood at a level most men never reach that everything he cares about was already on loan. The single most complete philosophical statement of this doctrine was written not by a Stoic sage, not by a philosopher in his study, but by a man in a prison cell less than a year from his own execution. His name was Boethius, Rome, the year 524. He had been the most powerful civilian in the Roman world, consul, senator, personal advisor to the Gothic king Theodoric. He had wealth, wife, 2 sons who were themselves already consuls, and one of the great personal libraries in Europe. Then he was falsely accused of treason. He was arrested, imprisoned in a cell in Pavia, and in the months before his death, with no library and no notes from memory alone, he composed the book that would become the second most read book of the medieval world after the Bible. It is called the Consolation of Philosophy. It shaped Aquinas, Dante, Chaucer, and Elizabeth I. It is one of the deepest philosophical arguments ever produced for why a man cannot be broken by what the world takes from him. The central image of the book is a wheel, the wheel of fortune. And when Boethius in the cell complains that fortune has betrayed him, the personified figure of philosophy answers with the line that is the philosophical foundation of unbreakability itself. She says, "You are wrong if you think fortune has changed toward you. Change is her normal behavior. Change is her true nature. Read that carefully. Boethius has lost nothing fortune took from him. He never had it in the first place. Fortune lent it to him. The wheel turned. It has always been turning. His mistake was not that he had a great life. His mistake was that he thought the great life was his. And then philosophy delivers the line that a man carries with him for the rest of his life once he has heard it. If you look at the true state of things, more freedom is in the man in chains. For the tyrant has no power over his soul. The tyrant in Boethius's case was the king who was about to have him killed. And Boethius understood in the last months of his life that the king had never actually had power over him at all because the location where Boethius had built himself was one the king could not reach. This is the philosophy, the tradition, the book. And now the practical question. The tradition has converged on 3 laws of the unbreakable man. Not principles, not practices. Laws because they operate whether the man knows about them or not. And no philosophy of unbreakability in the entire history of the West has ever violated them. The first law is the law of diagnosis. You cannot relocate what you cannot see. So the first act of every unbreakable man in history has been to ask with total honesty the question that most men will not ask themselves. What would collapse me if I lost it? Not intellectually, emotionally. What is the thing whose loss you cannot imagine surviving? Whatever the answer is, that is where you have located yourself. And whatever you have located yourself in the world can take. Naming it is not a solution. Naming it is the beginning. Because until you know where your interior lives, you cannot move it. The second law is the law of separation. This is the technical practice the Stoics called prus, attention. The daily discipline of noticing in real time when your interior is being dragged into an external event and consciously refusing to let it go there. Someone insults you. Your interior wants to fly out into the insult to argue, defend, be defined by it. The practice is to notice the pull and stay inside, not to suppress the emotion, to keep your center where it belongs while the emotion moves through. Over months and years, this becomes the ordinary condition of the man. His interior stops flying out into every event that occurs. It stays where it lives. The third law is the law of construction. It is not enough to withdraw from the world. You must build inside yourself something the world did not give you and cannot take. Boethius wrote his book in a cell. Marcus wrote his meditations at the edge of an empire. Epictetus, a crippled ex-slave, built the philosophy that shaped kings. The material is not important. The practice of building something out of your own interior sustained over years is important because what you build inside yourself in that way becomes the thing you own that the wheel cannot spin. The unbreakable man is not a man with nothing to lose. He is a man who has built something the loss of which would still leave him standing on ground of his own making. Diagnose, separate, construct 3 laws held for years. There is no other route to unbreakability. There is no shortcut. There is no personality type that has this pre-installed. There is only the practice sustained by men who have decided that the ground the world offers them to stand on is not ground they are willing to trust their life to. And this brings us to the closing paradox. The one that decides whether any of this ever becomes real in your life. The reason most men cannot become unbreakable is not that the practice is too hard. The reason is that the practice asks the one thing they will not give. It asks them to stop clinging. To recognize that everything they have been holding on to, their reputation, their money, their comforts, their identity as a man of status, their need for the world to go their way, was already on loan from fortune. That the wheel was always going to turn. And that the man who tries to save what the wheel is going to take is not a strong man. He is a man who has failed to notice where he is standing. But there is something deeper here that the tradition almost never states directly. The men who finally let go, the ones who genuinely release their grip on what fortune gave them, do not become empty. They do not become cold or indifferent or numb to life. They become, for the first time, fully present to it. Because when you are not frantically guarding what you have, you can actually experience what is here. The man clinging to his fortress is too busy defending it to live inside it. This is the final reversal the tradition offers. You do not let go in order to lose. You let go in order to keep the only thing that was ever actually yours. Your response. Your judgment. Your interior. The part of you that the wheel has no jurisdiction over. Boethius understood this in a prison cell. Marcus understood it commanding an empire that was already crumbling. Epictetus understood it in chains. None of them were waiting for better circumstances. None of them were waiting for the world to become kinder or fairer or more predictable. They built where they were, with what they had, from the inside out. And this is the question the tradition leaves you with. Not whether the wheel will turn, it will. Not whether fortune will eventually take what she lent you, she will. The only question is what you will have built inside yourself by the time she does. The unbreakable man is not the one who has held on hardest. He is the one who let go before the wheel did the letting go for him. He is the one who looked at everything fortune had given him, the status, the comfort, the approval, the identity, and said, I see what this is. I am grateful for the loan. And I am not going to build my foundation here. The wheel is turning. It has always been turning. What determines whether you break when it turns against you is not the strength of the blow. It is where you have been standing. Move now. Before the wheel does the moving for you.